So tell me a little bit specifically about your chapter. Your chapter is titled Ascent of Victory.
My chapter consists of, like you said, it's so much. We have so many layers and so many stories that we can tell that's part of our lives. My part, I chose to, part of my life I chose was domestic violence.
It's the Working Mom.
And welcome to episode 6 of the Working Mom podcast. I am here today with one of my co-authors of The Fragrance of a Resilient Woman to tell us a little bit about her story and her chapter in the book. Miss Erica Rose, how are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing awesome. It's great to have you. I thank you so much for participating and being on the podcast just to kind of share some of your story. This has been just an amazing journey for not only myself, but all of the co-authors in the book as well. So I just want to kind of dive right in. Tell us a little bit about yourself and a little bit about your chapter.
Um, well, I'm Erica Rose. I live in Dallas, Texas. I've been out here for maybe 11, 12 years. Um, Moved out here from Colorado. My dad is a retired military Army, so I'm an Army brat, wife brat. So ended up here in Dallas after the kids are grown up. All the kids are grown out the house, so we decided to move out here. Been nursing for almost 20 years now, and I kind of fell upon Kendra. I think she's from Dallas also. Been watching her on Facebook, social media, and she came up with this idea to have a book with a group of women. And I kind of jumped on that. Always wanted to write a book, and here I am. So hopefully I can write some more soon.
Yeah, I feel like the same way. And I get asked that question a lot, like, how did this even come about? Like, how were you introduced about it? And it was similar experience for me, just kind of being on social media. I'm not even exactly sure how we started following the publishing company or following Kendra,
Yeah.
but somehow we followed each other, and I saw that she posted if anyone was interested in telling their story. And I think I've seen the post a few times. And like you said, I've been the same way, just one of those people that was always kind of interested in telling my story, but not sure how to do it or how I wanted to do it. I even have like little sticky notes on my office computer with, a goal that I was going to write a book one day. And for some reason, I commented under it and said, like, I would love to tell my story, but just kind of getting information and all of that stuff was, and getting down to, the point where we actually start, you still kind of feel like, do I really want to do this or don't I want to do this? Or kind of what to say, what not to say. Um, 'Cause that's kind of, I feel like a piece of it also, like just trying to decipher how much you want to tell, what don't you want to tell, what version of your life you kind of want to tell. Because as women, we have so many different layers to our stories and to our lives. And it is a collab, so obviously you can't tell everything, but just kind of try to get into, what makes you that resilient woman as well. So tell me a little bit specifically about your chapter. Your chapter is titled Ascent of Victory.
My chapter consists of, like you said, it's so much. We have so many layers and so many stories that we can tell that's part of our lives. My part, I chose to, part of my life I chose was domestic violence because I was in a marriage young and, dealt with a lot of domestic violence during that marriage. It was like a 4-year marriage. It was hard because, raised in the South, my mom and dad, they're, marriage is marriage. You got to tough it out regard to the good times, bad times, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But, it's just a trial that I felt like that I needed to put it out there because I know we have a lot of women that go through domestic violence, and I feel like people need to know your story. That way, I can encourage someone else that's going through the similar thing. Know that they can get out. You don't have to stay, even though society wants you to stay because you're married, and married is, you're taught marriage is sacred. You got to tough it out, no matter what. But I wanted to write about that part because I want people to know, even young, teenagers now experience that now with boyfriends and stuff in high school. You need to know you can get out. You don't need that abuse. You don't need to take that. That's not love, because if a person loves you, he will not hit on you or abuse you in any kind of way. That's physical, mentally, or whatever. But you don't need it. You need to get out of it.
Yeah, and that was so brave to be able to tell your story. Like, just reading through your chapter is just kind of, again, just figuring out what you're going to write and so forth, and have the courage to share, our stories, because you're so right, and especially, again, a book of, African American women just telling their stories of resilience. Like, our community is famous for it. Like, we frown down on marriages that, don't last, and breaking up homes, and just the stereotypical stuff that everybody just, I don't want to be a case of that, but, it just, some part of, our story just says that, hey, you're supposed to stick it out. You're supposed to be strong. You know what I'm saying? Women are strong. We're supposed to put up with anything and everything.
Oh, yeah.
And I just feel like, especially in this generation with social media and so forth, like, teenagers put so much out there. So they have this vision of this perfect world looking at social media. And they may have a lot of things going on, in their own personal and private lives, but they want to put something else out on social media as if like everything's, so perfect in my relationship and relationship goals and things like that. So I thought it was just amazing just reading through your story, and just all the things that you were open about, and just the struggles on, should I stay, leaving, coming back, several times, because we've all been there before in relationships and situations where you do have the courage to leave, and then you turn around and weeks later you're back in a situation again. Like, just, a big piece of leaving and staying, and now knowing, I'm not going to put up with this anymore at all. It's like something that's really huge in our community. So I know a lot of young people will also be able to relate to your chapter as well. So in writing your chapter, did you have any kind of feedback, whether it's negative or positive, backlash from family and friends about kind of, disclosing, or is your story kind of past that? I know that we had some people that were some of our co-authors, and then some other people that were interested in joining the book that did not sign on. So that was just something that, I'm very curious about with all of the authors, because I get that question as well. Like, people always call me and say, like, did your family read? Did somebody, like, they always just want to know, like, did somebody call you? Did they say anything? And even though, me personally, I feel as though I didn't say anything that, would have me, terrified that someone might call me or something. But, everybody feels some kind of way about things, positive or negative, as, but it's hard to tell our story without including people in our lives that are a part of our story. So I'm just curious about that. Like, was it any backlash, or was it all positivity, or like, what's your feel thus far, with promoting the book?
Well, I did kind of hesitant, like you said. You want to make sure is it going to be okay if you put that information in there or put that person out there, not naming them, but per se in the story, in the chapter. And you want to make sure that you're not offending anyone. But in the end, I let that person know this is what I'm going to be writing in the chapter, that part of that life of our lives. And was he okay with that? He said that was fine because, that was a part of our lives. Some people knew, some people didn't know, but in the end, I ended up getting more positive aspect on it than negative. And the family was okay with it. As far as friends and, my mom and dad, my mom is definitely encouraging. She's been encouraging for day one. So I have a lot of encouragement from different people, a lot of positive stuff, no negative stuff, because I feel like it's a story that needs to be told, You know, like I said, people need to know that you can do better and get out that situation.
Mm-hmm. And that is even very brave, because I feel like that's something that I really didn't do when I wrote my chapter. So just you mentioning that you reached out to, some people that were there for that part of your life that you wrote about, to kind of just speak with them about it, not necessarily get consent, but just make sure, that what I'm going to say, this is what I'm going to say, and so forth. Um, and I must admit that I really didn't do that with my chapters. Like I really didn't.
Well, I don't want to step on nobody's toes, and I don't want to take them by surprise by me writing this book, that, writing the book with my chapter in there about that.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't want them to be taken off guard. So I thought it was better just to reach out, to them and let them know this is what I'm
Yeah.
doing. You know, if you got any problems with me, let me know. But
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna write it regardless. I'm not gonna
Right.
just put your name out there. It's just, a character.
Right. And that's good to kind of put out there that, regardless if you wanted to tell your story, and that's a piece of what I was feeling. I did have some family meetings with, my husband and my children about the book, and as far as, what I was going to say and what piece of my life I wanted to touch on. Um,
Right.
but my immediate family kind of felt like, you're going to do it regardless. So as long as whatever you say you can live with and it's your truth, then don't kind of go in and get everybody's opinion on it and what, because sometimes I feel like when you deep dive into asking too many people kind of what their thoughts are and what you're going to put, then you start changing things. So that's how I kind of felt even with my editing. And I'll let you speak on your editing process a little bit, but we had so many different sessions of editing, and then the publisher sent the book back to us again, and then you edit and review and send back. And I feel like I just got to a point where that even was kind of heavy on my shoulders, where like, don't send this book back to me again, because every time you send my chapter back, I feel like now I'm really rethinking. Now I'm making some changes. Now I'm rewriting things. And it was just a cycle over and over again. And not necessarily changing my story, but now we have some weeks to think about what we wrote.
Right.
You go back and you're like, wait a minute, let me just kind of soften that blow just a little bit.
Right.
Um, so I feel like that's still a piece of our strength as women, because we are considerate of, what we say, and maybe some of our stories might have a little harder blow than what we really put in there, and what we, maybe just trying to tell the surface, but not deep dive into specific scenarios, because you're still trying to protect, you're still trying to be that person that's just like, I'm not here to hurt anybody. I'm not here to, really this is my story. This is not your story. So I don't want to, dive into anything that could make someone feel some kind of way about, our loved ones and so forth. But um, did you feel like that a little bit when you did your editing, that you were possibly kind of rethinking and rewriting, or just kind of trying to perfect what you already wrote?
I was kind of rethinking because, like you said, should I put that in there? Should I say that? Or, just really trying to keep it as as you can say, clean,
Mm-hmm.
simple, not putting too much out there. Once again, you just didn't want to offend anybody or make
Mm-hmm.
a certain person look really, really bad or something like that. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I started thinking like, do I really want to do this? Do I really want to do this book? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm like, oh my God. And like you said, you don't want to have, talk to too many people because you don't want them to say, oh, well, you shouldn't put that in there. You shouldn't put this in there.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then I was pushed for time. Like you said, we were pushed for time. I ended up losing one of my cousins at that time in September when the deadline was
Wow.
coming around, and I had to, travel to Alabama and come back. It was
Mm-hmm.
just, time consuming and trying to get the deadline in for
Mm-hmm.
the pre-draft. So it was tough because I was like, oh my God, I ain't got time. How am I gonna get this done? I need to try to get this
Mm-hmm.
done, before the deadline. And I was like kind of overwhelmed because I'm working and just trying to come home at night and try to get this book wrote, the chapter. It was tough, but I said, you know what? I'm gonna stick to my guns. and write it like I went through as much as possible.
Yeah.
Leave it at that. Either they gonna like it or they don't like it. But I'm just gonna tell my truth as simple as I can.
That's how I feel like I got down to it. Because like you said, like signing up originally, you don't think of, I signed up to write and be a part of a book. Like I signed up to be an author, a published author, you know, in a book. So I think originally I didn't realize all that went into it. And like you said, now you're coming home in the evening, at night, after work, family, so forth. And now I'm, you know, still trying to do this chapter, still trying to get everything out there, still trying to do my edits. And then, you know, even once we submitted everything, I feel like that took like a weight off my shoulder. But then now it came back again for round 1 of edits, and then round 2 of edits, and then everybody checking again. And especially for a book like ours, which is a collaboration book, because we have several authors that need to, you know, obviously meet the deadlines and get everything submitted and, you know, vote on everything. And when we made the decision to originally like put out there for marketing and everybody post today on social media, you know, and things like that, where you're just trying to have your day and you're like, wait a minute, I gotta hurry up and get back home. Today's the day we all have to post, you know.
Right.
Those little things, I feel like I just really didn't think about. And I don't know if I have it mastered at this point, but even just, you know, this step is a big piece of knowing, you know, for book 2 or 3, and it kind of inspires you to say, like, I can definitely do another one. Like I can tell a little more, or not kind of, you know, jump out there and do one completely on my own, and tell a little more. Now, I don't know if the next one will probably be a deeper dive into my personal life again, but, you know, just other things about my life that may be inspiring, you know, to someone else. But I definitely kind of felt the same way as well, with just being able to meet all of the deadlines, that it was something that I've never experienced before. And people was asking me, I don't know if you got that as well, like kind of just asking the process and how do we do it. And in the beginning, I don't think I told many people that I was even doing this, or had stepped out to, you know, sign on and say I wanted to participate, until very close to when it was actually coming out. So obviously my husband and kids knew, but I really didn't, you know, just go to every event and say like, hey, I'm writing a book, I'm, you know, putting out something soon. I kind of still kept that kind of private.
Right. I stuck to my guns, but like you said, in the end, you don't realize that, you know, what you're signing up for. So like if we eventually do another book in the future, we can be prepared, because you're like, okay, I'm happy I signed up, you know, I'm ready to go, not knowing it's a lot of work, you know, to put into it. Just for the chapters that we have, it was a lot of work. It was a lot of thought process, you know, trying to make sure that you got your story out and it was right. You know, and asking questions, and, you know, what to do, what not to do. You know, it's just, it's time consuming, and it's a process. So we had to trust the process, trust our hearts, and just write what we know.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's what I did.
And even me, with being such a private person, like I feel like most of my life, I really don't talk about anything personal with me. So I think that was a piece as well. Like it took weeks for me to be like, oh my goodness, like what did I sign myself up for? Because now, you know, it's out there. Like my neighbors may read it, my coworkers may read it. Like, you know, who knows who may now know that piece of my story, that obviously, you know, us as women, again, we don't go around just blasting off, you know, that part of our lives, you know what I'm saying? So most people don't know about that. And I remember that the publisher asked for us at some point to kind of get on a live and invite our friends onto like a Facebook Live for us to kind of tell our story. And I feel like at that point, I still was not 100% on board. So I got on the live, but I didn't invite anybody. And I knew we didn't have any mutual friends. But that's just like, I feel like that can go even into the next book. Like, yes, I put this book out there, but the truth of the matter is that, you know, I was still very nervous. Like I didn't want to invite anybody to tell about our stories. And I know in our marketing meetings, they were asking us like, do we want to do other podcasts? Do we want to get on the news? Do we want to this? And I was just like, wait a minute, wait a minute. I don't think I want to do that. So
Right.
I feel like I'm still, getting acquainted personally to having the book out there and, getting calls from people that are like, I'm so sorry that happened to you. I'm not sure if you're getting, messages like that, but it's good. It's great to be free of it because you can tell people like, you don't have to be sad for me. Like it's fine. I'm past that. So did you feel like it was kind of freeing to put it out there and now you're not, burdened down by the situation and it's just like, look, it's out there. It is what it is. It's part of my life, but now it's kind of like almost a little weight off your shoulders that, that version of your life, you can kind of close that chapter.
Yeah, I feel like it's a closed chapter because briefly, after all that happened and went down, I left and got my kids and stuff. It's something that you hold on to for a while. It's a struggle to get free of it because you know at that time like marriage is sacred. You feel ashamed, but you have to forgive yourself and that person. I had a pastor tell me, never forget, he told me, you always have to forgive a person before you have to forgive a person. You have to see that person who they were before they did what they did to you in order to forgive. And you always have to forgive in the heart. You ain't got to go knock on nobody's door and say you forgive them, blah, blah, blah. Just forgive them in your heart and just move on. So I definitely felt free about it because a lot of people didn't know the story or the history with that person, but now they know and they know what I went through. So I definitely am free with that and okay because it's in the past. That's just like our lives is like a chapter and that's just a closed chapter and it's done. But I'm definitely happy about it that it's out there and I have a lot of people friends asking like, wow, I didn't know that, and they'll say, oh, that person was like that. I'm like, yeah, but he's totally different now. So
yeah, and it's past stuff.
New lives and stuff like that.
Yeah, and it's all past stuff. And I think that is a piece of advice that I gave as well to anybody that, other people were coming and saying, I always wanted to write a book. And I would say, just make sure whatever you write about that you're past it. You have to be mentally past the whole situation in order to write about it. If you're still living in it and it's still burdening you and it's still a weight on your shoulders, then maybe it's not the time to speak on it yet because you will have to talk about it. People will call you about it. So I think that that's a large piece of whatever, you decide to put in your book to just make sure that that chapter of your life is officially closed. Like I don't have any ill will against anybody. I don't feel any kind of way. It shouldn't bring up any, feelings between anybody, me or anyone else in the chapter that I may have spoken about. Like it shouldn't bring up anything because we are all, well past it and in a different space. So that's the piece that makes it all worth it because you know that, your mindset is just not even there anymore. But I do want you to talk about, again, just other people will read your chapter, other young ladies that may be going through this in a similar situation, not necessarily even physical abuse, but mental, emotional, and just all of that. So just talk briefly just about the strength and the mindset that it takes to, leave that situation and to reclaim your life and restart your life.
It took a lot of praying, crying, just like soul searching, knowing that you can do better and you can have better. And I know I say that and it sounds simple, but it's not. You really gotta believe in yourself. You gotta trust God, have faith, read the Bible, know your word, and know you deserve better. That's my main thing. If you can't give me better, I can do better. And I deserve better and I'm gonna get better. If it's just by being by myself, I'm gonna get better. You have to, we have to encourage ourselves. You know, we have to speak life into ourselves, affirmities into ourselves, and know that we can do something and that we are loved. We are good people. You know, just be encouraged. You know, uh, as far as African American women, we always try to tear each other down, but no, we have to encourage each other. And whoever is listening, excuse me, or reading the chapter, just know you got to pray. You got to get in that right mindset to be able to get out. You got to break free, and just tell yourself you deserve better. That's not love. When a person is abusing you, mentally and physically, that's not love. They say they love you, but if they're doing all that to you, they don't love you. That's not love. Because if you love a person, you want to do a person.
Absolutely.
You gotta love, and you know it comes with self-love.
Self-love.
Number one, self-love. Love yourself enough to get out of a situation like that.
Yeah.
And it took a long time for me, you know, because it was mental and physical, you know, or the tear downs, you know, the negativity, or you this and you that. You got to come above that. You got to rise above that and know that you are better than what that person tells you. And get out. Self-love.
Yeah. And I know that you mentioned, you know, obviously all of that being a past chapter, but what about forgiveness? I mean, that's a huge piece that, you know, once you get past it, now you have to go through the cycle of forgiveness. Did that kind of take some time, or was that once you stepped away, then, you know, you started that process immediately, or, you know, just what about the forgiveness of your
Forgiveness
chapter?
came eventually. It took a while. I can only honestly could say it took a couple years because I was, you know, just, you know, you have what do they call it? You just don't like men. I was in that state where I just didn't like men, and I was like, I shouldn't be like that. My mom was like, you can't be like that because all men are not like that. You know, you got your good, your bad, your ugly, whatever, and different. But you just cannot be like that. And I can't, slowly but surely, it took a while. But once I forgave that person, I was able to talk to that person or reach out to that person. And like I said, we're friends now. But at first, it was hard. It was difficult. But definitely, that is one of the number ones too, is that you have to forgive a person in order to move on. If you don't forgive a person, then you won't be able to move on. You won't be able to leave that chapter. You'll still have that chapter in your life open. And you can't go into any new relationships or anything with that baggage. You got to leave that baggage and forgive that person and move on. So when you get in a new relationship, you're able to have a healthy relationship. I always tell people a healthy relationship is a good thing. You can't have a bad relationship. Bad relationships cause you sickness. I tell people it'll make you sick if you're in an unhealthy relationship. But when you're in a healthy relationship, you're healthy, you're happy, and you're not sick. Because people don't realize when you're in situations like that that cause you stress, or you're having headache and just different things, elements going on in your body and stuff, it's not healthy. That's mean you're not in a healthy relationship. You got to get out. You got to find something that's healthy in a relationship. You got to find a healthy relationship that's going to be right for you. But yes, forgiveness is a big key, because we tend to make it hard to forgive, but it's easy when you do it. It's easy.
Yeah.
Like I said, I did struggle on forgiving that person. Then I was like, you know what? Just forgive this person and move on. I had to, because I had to go on with my life. I had to take care of my kids and stuff. And, you know.
And I think that applies to all relationships, whether it's, you know, friendships, co-workers, whatever the relationship is, you know, it's just once you get to a point where you decide that you want to move on, sometimes it's just hard for people to forgive, and that can just weigh on you, because now you have this burden of, you know, this person could almost be controlling your life, and yet they're not even a part of your life anymore.
Right.
And another thing that I always say is that a part of forgiveness for me doesn't always mean that you have to have that person back into your life. Like, some people think that just because you decide to forgive them, that now they should be a part of your life again, or that maybe you're still mad, or maybe you're still holding a grudge or things like that because, well, we don't talk anymore. So clearly they're still mad. Clearly they're still holding a grudge. But that's not always true either. Like sometimes you may not feel, you may really wish them all the best, but you just know that for the next chapter of your life, it just might not include that person or that energy. Like sometimes different people move with you on different chapters of your life. So I think that that's all a part of growing and forgiving and so forth, and just understanding when you step away from any situation that may not be taking you in, the path or of happiness, the forward progress that you're doing in your life, then it's kind of like you have to make that decision of what does happiness look like for me.
Right.
And it may not, that the picture and the vision might not include you. It might not include that person. So I feel like that's a piece too to kind of get across with all of our stories, that once you get to that point, then you don't always have to take that person along in the next chapter. You can mentally free yourself and kind of move on with your life and wish them all the best. But you have that option, if they are a better person, if they progress, they've, now not in that space, then maybe later on they might be able to now become a piece of, that chapter of your life in whatever form or fashion, still makes you happy, or, bring positivity to your world. So my final question is kind of just, what words of encouragement will you give to a young lady that's struggling? Not even, and I know we focus on, some people might be coming up, but it may be some people that have been in these kind of situations for 30 and 40 and 50 years. It might not be a young lady that is in a similar situation, but do you have any final just words of encouragement or advice for someone that might, have a similar story?
I would say, seek help. I mean, if anything, seek help. It's so many places and agencies to help people, women in this situation. It's just so much out there. You just got to find it, and just seek help. I mean, if you have to go to your church or pastor or vice, whatever you family. Sometimes you have to confide in family, even though you don't want to. My thing is someone that you're really close to in your family that you feel you could confide into without them going back to tell that person, so you can get out of that situation. Just know you can get out and do better. And just, self-love. Self-love, love yourself, hug on yourself, do what you need to do. But just know you deserve better and you can get out the situation. No matter how long it's been, it's time for you to have a breakthrough and get your mindset right and get out of that situation. Because if that person is telling you you can't do no better, you can't leave, da 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 da, don't believe it. Don't believe it. Trust yourself. Pray. If you don't do anything else, if you don't hear nothing else today, pray. God will open a door for you to get out of that relationship. He will.
That was excellent advice, and so true. And I'm definitely going to make sure that I include in this episode of the podcast in the description some links and information for anyone that may see this episode and may be looking for some information on people to talk to and things of that nature, because we definitely want to be a voice and make this book something that can really touch someone, because that's why we all participated. We all participated and decided to tell our stories, not for self-gratification, but because we all had the mindset that maybe our stories can touch someone else. Maybe someone else may be going through similar things than what we went through and have overcome, and just kind of be in that listening ear. So I'll also make sure all of Erica's information is in the description as well. You want to reach out to her directly, feel free. On her Instagram, Facebooks, and so forth will be in the description. And I just thank you so much for not only participating in the Fragrance of a Resilient Woman. All of my co-authors were amazing. It was great working with you guys. I feel like everybody had an amazing story to tell. So, obviously when our family and friends purchase, they always dive straight to our chapter, the people that they know. But, everybody wants to, feedback is that they just want to, hear everyone else's story. And, the book itself is just such a great collaboration of different walks of resilient women. So I think that Kendra and our publishing company just did an amazing job on really putting this book together. And I'm very proud of it being my first book. Everything that I talked about and just reading you guys' chapter, I'm very proud of the outcome. So thank you again for telling your story. I definitely would love to have you back. I know we spoke previously about, you wanting to get into real estate also. So my podcast does touch on not only resilient women, but business, finance, and things like that. So I would love to have you come back and tell your story on getting into the industry and just transitioning and so forth. But thank you so much. Thank you so much for participating in this episode.
Thank you. Thank you once again. Thank you so much, Ebony, for having me. And like I said, it's been a pleasure working with you, being a co-author of the book. I'm just excited, and hopefully we got, a couple more projects in the future as far as the real estate and different things coming up. I am trying to work on another book. Hopefully it's going to be a book of testimonies. I'm currently working on that. So we'll see what 2021 brings. But thank you once again for having me on here. I was all nervous, but
there's nothing to.
Hope I did good.
Yes, you did amazing. And like you said, I'm in the process. The book has inspired me as well. I've already talked to our publisher about putting out a second one sometime like spring of next year also. So I think that we are in the vibe now. Like we can do this. But yeah, I would love to work together again. And these collab books are awesome. So, I don't know how easy it'll be to do a full book, because I feel like that might be something that's even more challenging, which I'm willing to take on the challenge. But I do like the collaborations and just kind of telling different phases of our life and story. So, we collide on something like that again, then I would definitely love to have this group of women to work with again.
Okay. Definitely down. So if you need me to come on again or anything, just call me, let me know. I'm
absolutely,
down.
Absolutely.
All right.
And I'll put all your information in the description, so we'll get all of that from you as well. But again, thank you so much for participating in episode 6 of the Working Mom podcast.
All right, you're welcome. Thank you. Bye-bye.